Hello everyone. So we are on to the John Carter of Mars series, specifically the first one, Princess of Mars. Now, I am going to be splitting up the John Carter of Mars series into the three as I'm reading them. So the first one is Princess of Mars, and that is what this video is going to be about. If you didn't already know from my first part of it, as I'm rambling. So anyways, yeah, so this series, fantastic. I've been wanting to read it forever, but I kept on putting it off just because I had other things to read, and then I'm more of a fantasy reader, so I wasn't too sure if I was going to like the sci-fi aspect of it, but oh man, it is awesome. And it was written in the 1900s. Like, to me, that's just amazing. Just think about it, like, over, like, 100 years ago, this book came out, and people read it then. You know, just like 100 years, you know, generations ago, this book came out. You know, there are people who read this book when it came out who are dead now. Like, that's just, I don't know, to me, so cool, especially considering how much this book is awesome. It's just fantastic. Because I've tried to read older books before, and a lot of the time I find the writing's weird, because, you know, how we talk and how we write things now, it is different from how they did it back in the day. But for whatever reason, he wrote it. I don't know if maybe they changed the writing. I haven't found anything that said they did, but the writing in it is just so easy to get into. It's not like the old, dry, hard-to-read books that I've had before. It's very accessible, very easy to read. I don't know, I just can't get enough of this book. It's fantastic. The other thing I really like is the perspective. It's set as if John Carter, the main character, gave a manuscript, basically his diary, to someone to give to the population. So it's written like it was a memoirs, first person, which is very unique, I think. A lot of books nowadays are third person, you know, so like he did this, she did that, here's the vista. But this book is I saw this, here's what happened, guys, here's what I did. You know, here's what the scenery looked like, and here's how it affected me. It's nice that way, you know. It's more personal. You get a lot of information about the character and the world fast, because, you know, you can spend one paragraph describing things in first person that would take pages to do in third person. So it comes across a lot of information very fast, without being dry. You know, I'm not sitting there reading a textbook going, oh, okay, so this was this, you know, this person's related to that person, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's not that. It's world building, first person style, which makes it fast paced, which I like. You know, it's not slow and ponderous and just bleh, bleh, bleh. It's very nice that way. So yeah, so he magically, for whatever reason, he ends up from Earth to Mars, and they call it Barsoom, and it is well thought out. You get a sense of the geography, the culture, the races, the characters, you know, the way he describes things. You get a sense of it being a real place. I mean, Mars is a real place, but Barsoom, we don't know what's on the surface of Mars, so who knows, maybe there are, you know, green Martians fighting. But it's just well thought out. Description. Sorry. I'm not very good at speaking today. Well described. Well thought out. Just, it feels like a living, breathing world, which I know it's kind of like, you know, that's a common used phrase for stories, but it really does feel like he took the time to make this a real world. I mean, it'd be kind of funny if he just penned all this information down in like 5 minutes and then wrote the whole story in like an hour and stuff like that. But who knows, right? But to me, it's a very rich world. So yeah, so you got the different races. There's a couple. In the first, you got the Red Men, which are basically the most human-like of them. And then you have the Green Martians. They mostly focus on these ones called the Tharks, and you know, they're taller than a human. They got tusks. They got two upper arms and two little arms on the stomach area, and they got the legs, and they're very warlike, and yeah, it's cool. We'll start with the Green Martians. The Green Martians are panned out to be very warlike. You're raised communally. You don't really know for sure who your mother is. One of them just picks you up, and that's the one that raises you after you've been laid, because they come from eggs. All of them do. Even the red Martians, even the human-like ones. Everyone comes from eggs. Okay, so the Green Martians, they're very warlike. They're from a kid. When they're from a kid to when they're an adult. It's very unlikely you'll die of old age. You'll die in battle. You go in fighting. If someone attacks you with a gun, you can attack them with a gun. If they want to attack you with a sword, you got to fight with a sword. Bare hands, you got to go in there bare hands. So it's kind of like an honor system. Where battle is the only way to prove yourself as a worthy person. But you get a sense, especially in their interactions with John Carter, that they want to be something more. A few characters specifically state they want to be something more. But the whole society, for at least the ones we meet, is like, this is all I know. That I have to fight, I have to kill, I have to be a good warrior. But then just behind it, you kind of get that sense of, well, isn't there more to this than what we know? Shouldn't there be more to this? So with John Carter being there, that actually helps them change a little bit from being what they were to being what they could be. We help them along that path, which is really nice. And then the red Martians are more human-like. They are more scientific. They're not as strong as the Green Martians, but they do have a lot more technology. They have, flight capabilities beyond even, what we have nowadays. Their science is far, far, far more advanced. And they are very warlike, too. They still go into battle. It's all about the honor, honor and glory and fighting and stuff like that. But it's kind of funny, though, because at the same time, there's, theft is unheard of. Everyone takes you at your word. Your word literally is your bond. If, two people say, I want to marry you. Oh, well, I want to marry you. Well, then they're married. The ceremony is just for ceremony. It's the speaking of your word is more powerful than anything else. The only thing you have to worry about is being attacked or being assassinated. Life doesn't seem to hold much value because Mars is a dying world. So everyone that dies, it's one less mouth to feed. But at the same time, for those that are alive, it's very important that you conduct yourself a certain way. So as I mentioned quickly there, but the main character is, his name's John Carter. He is from Virginia, and he's a gentleman, and he fought in the American Civil War. And then he goes to Mars, and he finds out that, while he's there, he's powerful. He can jump higher, he's faster, he's stronger than anyone else, and that allows him to, just bull his way through, creatures that, he would never be able to stand up against on Earth, with a sword or with a bare hands even. He takes quite a few creatures down, so he is the classic fighter. He's the hero, goes in sword blazing, saves the princess, and that's what it is. And I remember in one of my other videos, the part 3 of the Change series, I didn't like the main character because he was too good at things, and I don't know why, but John Carter is almost the same, but I like him for that. Maybe it's just the tone of the story, or how he's written, I don't know, but he's good at things, but it's more because he bowls his way through, because he's honest and intelligent and a good person. And I don't know, he's just, for whatever reason, I like this character more than the other all-encompassing hero character. It's just the way things are. But yeah, he is that guy. He's a good, trustworthy character, do what's right, always, no matter what. Has his own set of codes, which sometimes conflict with, Barsoomian's codes of what's right and proper, but, he goes in there saying, hey, I'm going to do what feels good to me. So that's pretty cool. Actually, the only thing I actually have to complain about is the storyline involving Dejah Thoris. So she's the love interest. The only problem I have with the story is that they fall in love really quickly. I mean, as soon as they meet, you obviously know that they're going to be the love interest for each other. But yeah, it's pretty quick. It's like, hey, I'm John Carter. Hey, I'm Dejah Thoris. And then, a couple pages later, bam, we're in love. So, I mean, at the same time, I don't really mind it because the way the story is written, it's a fast-paced, adventure story. It's going from point A to point B to point C. Just boom, things happen. Get in your seat. Come with us. Rah. And so yeah. So I mean, it's kind of those like weird. I go, oh my goodness, I can't. Who falls in love that fast? But at the same time, it's like, well, that's the way the story is, and I don't mind it. So yeah. So Mars or Barsoom is, you look up the night sky and you say, oh, that's the stars and stuff like that. And throughout the ages, space has always evoked, the imagination and stuff like that. So using Mars, is right there. It's so close. People have been speculating about it for a long time. It's just in the recent history, our history, that we've been able to actually send rovers to Mars to get actual images of it. But here he is, thinking, oh, what could be there? We don't know what life could be out there. And so he speculated, hey, maybe it's exactly like ours. And actually, at one point in the book, they say that they're not really surprised that he looks human and that he's from Earth, because apparently every life that is in the solar system looks human-ish. Which would say a common ancestor somewhere, sort of thing. But yeah, so the story even says that, there's other inhabited worlds and they all look humanish. The only problem is getting from planet to planet. Otherwise, there'd be no problems with people being, oh my god, you're very alien. No, it's, legs, arms, head, face, eyes. So, I mean, that's kind of cool. And it makes it even more crazy that, here's this planet with, like, that's fully evolved to people that look like Earthlings, and then you're saying, oh yeah, there's other planets that are like that too. Just a throwaway comment, oh yeah, there's other life forms out there. And it's like, whoa man, what? So, especially me, because I'm interested in space and stuff like that, and so, I don't know, it's very cool, it sets up Mars as neat, as what our world could be if we're not careful, it's dying, the water is so precious because there's like little of it, and, it's barren and deserty and stuff like that. But yeah, there's an odd attraction to it, just like, people romanticize the Wild West. And it's kind of like that. There's always parts of human history that, people look fondly upon, and, even though Mars is barren, it's still got that desolate beauty to it, which he gets across quite nicely in the series. So it makes Mars seem very, I don't know, it just evokes the feels, I guess I'll say. But no, it's hard to say. Like, this book's really got to me. It's very, very, very well written, very good story. Okay, on to other stuff. So the science in the books. It uses light. Talks about light being able to do stuff. So we have the colors that we know, but on Mars they've found 2 others, and that allows them to not use fossil fuels, actually to use light to have like helicarriers, like from the Avengers sort of thing. But not having these things like that, not being cumbersome. They're darting around the air quite nimbly and stuff like that, and they're big, huge battleships. Which we can only dream of being able to do even nowadays. The way he describes them, they sound, amazing. That maybe we're at the same technology level, but we're using still fossil fuels, and they're using light and to allow buoyancy and stuff like that. And they use light to try to keep the atmosphere on Mars, and there's this one machine that if it wasn't constantly keeping the atmosphere on it, all life would die. It's like this one building that's all important and all encompassing, which comes into play at the ending the ending of the story. But the main storyline is, he gets to Mars, what's going on, oh, the princess needs to be saved, save her, and it's just a good action adventure from one point to another, good fun, just good fun, I think is the way to describe it effectively. But yeah, and then at the ending, that machine that I talked about comes into play, and I don't want to say it because I don't want to do too big of spoilers, but maybe you already kind of did because I talked about the atmosphere. Anyways, things go wrong, and he needs to save the world, but he doesn't know if he does or not because he passes out and he wakes up back on Earth, and that's how the first one ends. He maybe saved all of Mars from suffocating to death, but he maybe he didn't, but he woke up back on Earth. So we don't even know. I mean, all 3 books came in this one, so I know that he lived and he eventually goes back because, 2 other stories of him just sitting at home going, I want to go to Mars, isn't a very good storyline, and I doubt that would have been published. So, we kind of lose the suspense of it a little bit. At the same time, you're just like, oh my goodness, it's a huge cliffhanger for a book. But then I can only imagine what it would have been like for people who when this book first came out, and they had to wait for the next one. It's bad enough the cliffhangers that I've read throughout some books, but to say, oh my goodness, he maybe might not get back to Mars, and Mars might be dead when he gets there. Like, oh my goodness, that's a cliffhanger that makes you just go, ah! And if it wasn't for all 3 being in this one, I would have been like, oh my god, just how could you possibly do that to me? That is so mean. But yeah, so that is A Princess of Mars. I'm reading through it, so there's 2 others still that I'll have to do eventually. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. Pick up John Carter of Mars. Read them. I haven't even read the other 2 fully. I'm about halfway through the second one. I didn't even start on the third one. And I'm just saying, read them all. I don't even care. I shouldn't even have to do a review. Just do it. Read them. But I will do a review because, like I said, this is for fun, and it's fun to talk about. So yeah, so Edgar Rice Burroughs, Princess of Mars, fantastic book. Read it. I'm serious. Do it, gentlemen and ladies and people. Maybe monsters, aliens, lizardmen, rabbits. I don't know. Have a good day, everyone.